And thank you to Pat and Mike for being here today for the presentation too. So let me start by introducing the problem that we are addressing, because it's a known problem in the community, but it's not as popular as other problems. So we are dealing with oversubscription planning, and this was first presented by David Smith in ICAPS 2004. Okay, and it was motivated by a real problem that they had in the Mars rovers, in which, in that case, the battery was not allowing them to achieve all the goals. So they were not. It was impossible to find a plan for all the goals. So this can be generalized for any other problem and any other domain by setting a cost bound on the plan. So what we are going to do here is to set a cost bound in the plan that makes it impossible to achieve our goals. So we are going also to set an utility for every of the goals. And the objective of planning here is not to find a plan for all the goals, but to find a plan maximizing the utility. Okay, and in this work, we are starting from a previous paper that we presented in 2021, in which we were doing an upfront selection of goals. What we were doing is to estimate how costly it is to achieve every goal, to select a set of goals that we think is achievable. Once we have this set selected, what we are doing is to provide the set to an external planner. The external planner will try to find the plan for some time, in our case for 90 seconds. And if after 90 seconds no plan has been found, we decide that the set is still oversubscribed, that our estimations were not good. And then we are removing the last added goal and providing again the reduced set to the planner until we find a plan, until we find a set for which there is a plan under the bound. Once we have found this plan, we don't stop there. We try to add more goals. We keep searching in the space of set of goals to try to add more goals to the plan until we reach the timeout. And it's interesting to notice that this approach is planner independent. Once the goals are selected, we don't need to. We can use any planner to try to find this plan under the cost bound. And well, let me show you an example of how it works. Let's imagine that we have a problem with 4 goals, all of them with the same utility, and that we have a cost bound of 20. And in that case, as all the goals have the same utility, we will select them just by the cost, but the estimated cost that we have. Okay, so in that table, we have the estimated cost that we are obtaining by using relaxed plans. We use a relaxed plan from the initial state to the first goal, and the cost of the relaxed plan is 4, so we estimate the cost of achieving the first goal as 4, the second goal as 10, and so on. And the next lines of the table show the estimated cost of achieving one goal once another goal has been achieved. Okay, so this first row says that once we have G1, achieving G2 will cost us 5, achieving G3 will cost us 6, and so on. So the idea is that we start a search with the initial node, and then we say, okay, the cost for reaching G1 is 4, 10, 11, and 12, so we will go by this branch. Then we will select G2 because it's the closest goal to G1 according to our estimations. Then we will select G3, and finally, in the example, we will select G4 because the cost will be 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 7 is 20, which is the cost bound. So ideally, we think that we can achieve all the goals. So we will give this set to the planner, and after 90 seconds, we can imagine that no plan has been found, so we will remove G4, and then we'll try G1, G2, and G3. And if after 90 seconds again we cannot achieve G3, G1 and G2, then we will remove G3, and then we will try for G1 and G2. Okay, and we will keep doing that. If finally, for example, we get a plan for G1 and G2, that will be our first solution, and then we will keep exploring the nodes. Okay, and we will keep adding, and we'll say, okay, in this case, for example, you can say G1, G2, and G4 are achievable, so we will try a plan for them. And we will keep doing that, increasing the possible utility of the sets found until we get, either we have tried all the set or we get to the limit. Okay, this approach was working quite well, but we identified 2 problems that we want to try to solve in this paper, in this new paper. The first one is that we were calculating all the estimations beforehand, and sometimes, especially in domains with a lot of goals, there was no time to calculate all the estimations. So a very straightforward improvement is, okay, why should we calculate all the estimations beforehand, why don't we calculate them just during the search? Why don't we calculate them as we need it? So we can do a lazy calculation of these estimations, and we will call this approach relaxed plan on-demand linear distances, okay? Because we are calculating the distances just on demand. The second problem that we were facing in this approach is that many times, as we are estimating the cost, the sets were still oversubscribed, okay? And this happened very, very often. So in that case, remember, we try to find a plan for the goals. If we don't find a plan, we remove one goal. In sometimes, the sets were so oversubscribed that we spend all the time trying to refine that set. Okay, so in this case, it will help if we can have better estimations that make sets to be less oversubscribed. Okay, and our idea here was, would it be possible to use satisficing plans instead of using relaxed plans? It will take more time to calculate the estimations, but the estimations we expect that will be more accurate, and we expect that the sets will be less oversubscribed. So in those cases, we'll be able to find solutions. Okay, and we call this approach NPLD, novelty-based polynomial linear distances, because we are going to use special satisficing planners, novelty-based satisficing planners that are fast to do this kind of things. Okay, so going to the first improvement, to the first possible improvement, in this case, in the previous example, we will need to calculate all those estimations from the initial state. We will need to calculate all the estimations for the first selected goal, but for every other goal, we are every time calculating one less estimation. And if we, for example, stop in our case in G1 and G2, we will not have to calculate any estimation for G3 and for G4. So we are saving, in most cases, we are saving a lot of estimations, okay? And we can spend that time in other parts of the algorithm. Regarding the second possible improvement, in that case, we are going to use satisficing plans to create the estimations, and the way that we are going to use the satisficing plan is the following. Okay, to calculate the estimated cost of achieving one goal from the initial state, we are just going to create a one-goal plan with that goal and see which is the cost that the planner tells us for that goal. And to estimate how costly it is to reach one goal from another goal, we will use the final state of the first plan and create a plan, a single goal plan to the second goal. Okay, so it's possible to do that because they are one goal plans, and we can use then the novelty-based planners. Okay, this family of planners that is, for many domains, are polynomial for single goals. So they go very, very fast in calculating those plans. Okay, so we can do this calculation. The problem is that they are incomplete. Okay, so it may happen that they tell us that there is no plan achieving the first goal, achieving any goal for the initial state, but that's happening very rarely in the experiments. Okay, so even with this incompleteness, we will show in the experiments that the results are good enough. Okay, so the research question that we want to solve here are those three. Okay, is if the lazy calculations improve the number of solved problems, if we obtain if those better estimations that we can obtain using satisficing plans produce less oversubscribed sets, and finally, the most important one is the combination of approaches is making any difference. Okay, are we gaining something by using those instead of using the original relaxed plan approach? Okay, and for that, we are experimenting in 13 domains of the EPC 2011 because it was the same setting that we have in the previous paper. For each problem, we have created 3 different versions with different levels of oversubscription. Okay, so we set the maximum cost to be 25%, 50%, or 17% of the best known cost for that problem. And we also compared 2 different utility profiles. In one of them, all the goals have the same utility. So the only criteria to select them is the estimated cost. In the other one, there is a random utility in the range 1 to 10. Okay, so in this case, it makes sense to start selecting the most useful goals. Okay, and we are using this kind of best first wide search planners, and in this case, we are using this best first wide search polynomial planner. And this is all planner that we use for the as external planner to check if there is a plan for them. And it's also the same planner that we use to calculate the estimations using satisficing plans. Okay, so if we look at the coverage and the number of problems for which we could not solve, we could not calculate the estimations at the beginning. Okay, in the original work it was 96 problems, all of them in the VCTOL, which is a domain with a lot of goals. This number is not reduced a lot, but it's reduced if we just calculate, do lazy calculations. Okay, it's reduced to 88, and if we use satisficing calculations, it increases to 99 domains because this takes more time. Those estimations take more time, even if we are doing them in a lazy way, and not all of them are happening in the VCTOL. Some of them are happening also in the open stacks and in the elevators, where the planner, in some cases, is struggling to find plans for, even if they are one-goal plans. Okay, regarding the quality of the estimation, and the second question that we have is that having better estimations will allow us to have less oversubscribed problems. In this table, we show the number of oversubscribed problems that we have by our first selection of goals. Okay, so this 40% here means that 40% of the problems in the domain, in the Barman domain, were still oversubscribed. So we had to remove at least one goal to find a solution. Okay, and if we see the figures, we go for an average of 57% to an average of 40%. So it seems that having better estimations allow us to have less oversubscribed sets. And in the case of when all the goals have different utility, then it goes from 35% to 18%. So we are also here reducing the number of problems that are still oversubscribed. Going to the important part, okay, are we improving the utility? This is the result of the scores following the IPC score. Okay, and this is the original approach. This is the approach with the lazy evaluations, and this is combined approach. And as you can see, there is no much gain on doing lazy evaluations. And the reason here is that even if we are able to calculate those evaluations in more problems, in those problems are problems with a high number of goals. So what happens is that the time that we are spending, that we are saving here, we are spending that refining the problem. Okay, so we are not killed by not being able to calculate estimation. We are killed because the set are very, very oversubscribed. Okay, and this is, I didn't say it, this is the first solution. Okay, this is the first set that we have and the first solution that we have. Okay, and you see that using both approaches, the numbers are quite better than the other approaches. Okay, you see that there's small and slight difference in those two here, but the differences are not very, very big. Okay, so we wanted also to know, okay, these good results are due to maybe one single domain. Do they span across all the domains that we are considering? Okay, so in this table, we have a comparison between MPLD and ERPOL, okay, between the complete approach and just doing the lazy evaluations. Okay, a positive number means that our approach, the score of our approach is better than the other score. So, okay, so this 0.7 here means that we get 0.7 points more in score in that domain and that oversubscription degree. And you can see here, most of the gains are coming from two domains, OpenStax and VCTOL. But even with that, in 54% of the cases, our complete approach is better than just using a lazy evaluation, and there is a tie on 4 of them. These are the results for the first solution, but if we allow the planners to run for 30 minutes, so they can improve the first solution that they found, we can see that the results are more similar. Okay, so you see there are small improvements in using the lazy evaluations, especially when all the goals have different utilities, but using the satisficing plan is giving us some improvement when the oversubscription is high, but not when we can add a lot of goals. Okay, and the problem here is, and the reason here, mainly reason here, is that when we can add more goals, this approach is losing time in doing all the evaluations, okay, all the estimations. So many times it's not able to add more goals because it has no time to do the extra estimation that it needs. Okay, and in this case, just using lazy evaluation gives better results in almost 60% of the domains. Okay, so as conclusions, we can say that doing less evaluations is improving, but improvements are not big, and that we can use satisficing plans. It's possible to use them, and they produce better first solutions, but we need to do evaluation in more domains to check if this is really worth or not. Okay, as future work, what we have to do first is, as we were doing that as a proof of concept, we need to do all the steps of MPLD integrated, because now we are invoking an external planner, so we need to write the problem into this and to solve the problem and to receive the problem solved. So we are spending a lot of time there. And we are also thinking about a hybrid approach in which we start by using satisficing estimations, and at some level we can decide to switch to relaxed ones which are faster. That's all, I think.
Thanks a lot. Any question? Yep.
So one of the issues I found in my original work was that if the goals were highly dependent on one another,
Yeah.
right, then you do these estimations from scratch, right, and your estimates are really poor by the time you get to the, adding a second goal or third goal or fourth goal on. I'm curious as to what, if anything, you've found to get beyond that.
Well, I think that this works very well when they are independent. Okay, but when they are related, at the end what you have is that you are usually underestimating the real. And if you underestimate it, it's the real problem. Okay, if you overestimate it, at least you will have an initial set of goals that is achievable. But when they are like you are underestimating a lot the costs because they are related, then we are dead. Okay, and we spend all the time trying to refine the set that is unachievable.
Have you considered, if you're doing a greedy addition to sets, right, and adding things on, as to redoing your estimations based on the set that results from what you've done so far?
Yeah, I was thinking about probably this is a very good future work, just to consider that you have some plans that you can use to do better estimations. But the problem here is that in most of the domains, all the goals are achieved at the end. So it's difficult to use that as an estimation because you get a goal and you are close to the end, and then you get the other goal. But many of the actions that you were using for the first goal are reusing the second goal. So probably we need to work on that, and we were thinking about working on that, but we have this fear that at the end, using the real plans that you have is not helping too much.
Other questions? Following this question, actually, I was thinking during the talk whether in some way there could be to figure out whether there are some connection between the goals and exploit these possible, let's say, structure, or I don't know, if you're lucky you can have a sort of hierarchy and then exploit this, but I guess that is not easy also to leverage. While about the fact of this hybrid approach, do you think that the question is which could be the idea of how to decide where to switch to one rather than another, just on the results? So after that you made the analysis, also.
Probably before, probably when you are reaching some kind of a time bound or something similar. Okay. Like when you discover that you are getting, you will not be able, as you are calculating the estimations and you know more or less how much time you need to calculate every estimation, you can decide, okay, I will not be able to do the next level, so I will switch to relaxed plans I will have, even if the estimation is worse, I will have some estimation. I will be able to plan for them. So that was our first idea.
I see. Okay. Other question? Okay. So thanks again,
Thank you.
Angel.